welcome our speaker, Jonathan J. Lee, who is an award-winning illustrator and professor of illustration and conceptual arts.
Thank you for coming so early today. I know it's a very early time to be here and coming all the way to the Po to join us today. This topic, symmetry, what does it mean and why does it matter to me? In complete transparency, I've never thought about this thing before being asked to do this talk. But one of my colleagues, Adam Kuehl, professor of photography, told me something really beautiful. He said, in fashion photography, the models all have symmetrical faces because symmetry is beauty. And I thought this is a really poetic way to start this talk. But in truth, when I think of symmetry, I think of this. Maybe being a product of Hong Kong, this is the first thing that comes to my mind. But please, what I see is people in my way. Having said that, looking back at my work, I started noticing symmetry. Symmetry in my composition, symmetry in the temperature, warm versus cool, color balance. Symmetry in my content, so a lot of it is about urban life, and also the asymmetry in it all as well. But luckily, the lovely people at CreativeMornings gave me some guidelines and asked this question, which is how does my work as an artist and or teacher relate to symmetry? It doesn't, at least not in the way that I was thinking. Symmetry refers to balance, routine, the day-to-day, balance is something that I've never really had as an artist. So this is called the four burners theory, and the idea is that each of these themes represent an aspect of your life, and to have perfect balance, all the burners on the stove are turned on. And if you want to be successful in 3, you need to turn one off. If you want to be successful in 2, you got to turn 2 of them off. But the truth is, I live project to project. I've never had balance. I live what I do. I give my 100% no matter what it is. I don't sleep, eat, or take weekends when I'm on a project. I'm sure many of you know the story. So in the hopes of trying to discover something, I decided to map out my life and my career. And I did discover something. But in order to explain what I discovered, I need to start from the very, very beginning. So, my parents are both in education. They're both from Taiwan. They met in 1974. They went to the US in 1976 and then got married in 77. But my dad got his master's degree from Missouri. They had my older brother there, and then they moved to Bowling Green, Ohio, where he pursued his PhD, where I was born. And then we all moved to Utah together, where my father became a professor. His focus was very much research. He was very much the academic. Universities value researchers because it props up, the name of an institution. He eventually went on to admin, becoming the dean of Chinese University of Hong Kong for the business school, the vice president at Hang School of Commerce. So he was very much that side of education. My mother, on the other hand, in contrast to my father, was very much the teacher. Like, she loved teaching. She was also a professor, but she hated doing research. So as a testament to what a badass my mother is, growing up, she had no qualms telling me and my brother that Santa did not exist. I remember being in junior school in Hong Kong growing up here. It was an English colony at the time, and I remember our teachers trying to explain to us the history of Hong Kong, right, the Opium War. And what they told us was the reason why this war started was because the English wanted to sell fruits and vegetables in Hong Kong. No mention of opium. I remember going home to my mother and then telling her the story, and she straight up just said, "Your teachers are lying to you." As a young adult, growing up, when I had any issues or problems with clients or they're not paying me or difficulties, I would go and talk to her, and she would listen very, very patiently, wait for me to finish, and just say, "What did you learn?" And it would make me reflect and go, "Oh, you're right. Maybe I should do this differently, or maybe I shouldn't do this in the future, or this is how I'm going to set things up differently." In contrast to my father, who was very much administration, if I told him the same thing, he would say, "Do this, do that," the administrator in him. And then enter my brother, my older brother Alex. He was very much the spotlight. He loved being on stage. He can play any instrument to virtuoso standards. He was a charming guy that everyone wanted to be. I lived in his shadow for most of my life. This is a true story. He just had a deck of cards and he liked to do sleight of hand. So at a local bar in Shopton Beer in high school, he literally had the whole crowd of the whole bar around him just doing magic tricks and then drank for free the whole night. This is also a true story. In high school, you know, this is like in the 90s during the grunge era, so everyone had Kurt Cobain long hair. And then he cut his hair one day, and within 1 week, half of the kids at school had cut their hair. I was called Alex for the remaining 5 years of my secondary school by all of my teachers. He was studying biology to become a doctor when he realized he hated the sight of blood. And then so he went on to the Teach for America program in the US and started teaching for public schools in Los Angeles. From there, he became a teacher in international school in Tokyo, where he became head of science very quickly, and then vice principal of middle school. And this coming year, he will be the principal of high school principal at Seisen International School in Tokyo. So I'm surrounded by education. And then there's me, the black sheep of the family. I love each and every one of my family members and the perspectives they brought to me about education, which made me absolutely certain of one thing, that I wanted to be as far away from education as possible. So this is my story. I'm going to tell you about how I became an artist. I grew up here for most of my life. This is a class picture in 1997. If you look very, very carefully, I am the little girl in the second row. My grades were very good. I was a typical, you know, shy Hong Kong student, and then I wanted to pursue the arts. Something happened where it was like a secret fantasy that I have to do this. People around me were saying, you know, medicine, law, finance, education. So I applied to several institutions, including the City University of Hong Kong Polytechnic, and I got rejected from all of them. But I somehow managed to get into art school design in New York City, so I did go to New York, and that opened my eyes. In art design training, nothing is the same after that. A lot of people think that you don't need to go to school, you know, to go and pursue something creative, but the truth is, you do need that intensive training to really know how to survive. So coming on my final year at Parsons in New York City, I was scared, right? Because I was thinking, oh wow, now it's going to be real life soon. I got to really get to work. And so I thought that if this was the last time I'm going to be doing this, keeping in mind, again, people around me did not really support what I was doing. They thought it was a phase that would pass. So for this final year, I thought, okay, I'm going to do something that I love, and I'm going to make a comic. And so I made a little comic book in my senior thesis project about Hong Kong, related to, you know, gangsters in Hong Kong, Monkey King, all these kind of different mythologies mixed together. And I went to Comic-Con in New York City to try and ship it out to different editors. So at Comic-Con, the major publishers come here, Marvel, DC, and the idea is you go and show your work to them and they'll sit down and talk to you. So I did manage to get a hold of one editor, and he looked at my work. If you ever done a portfolio review, they literally flip through it in 5 seconds, hand it back to you, and he said to me, Marvel will never publish your work. And then I thought, oh, okay, this is it. My career is over before it even began. There's nothing going to happen. So then I realized, okay, I have nothing to lose. So I started talking to him as a human being. And I realized that his girlfriend was from Shenzhen. So we started talking about Hong Kong movies, Stephen Chow, Monkey King, all these things that we liked. And then he says, oh, you know what? So Marvel traditionally would not publish work because we have a house style. But you're lucky you're talking to me because I'm actually putting together a special project where I'm inviting different independent illustrators and authors to do their own version of Marvel characters in a short story. It'll be published as an anthology. So I got published in Marvel Comics. So the idea was that I made it, right? Wrong. Before I knew it, the editor had left Marvel, and this project didn't get published for at least 2 years after he left. Now, if you want to maintain a relationship in that industry, you need a relationship with editors there inside these publishing houses. So what happened was, for whatever reason, I came back to Hong Kong. I started getting a lot of work. People were like, oh, you went to an art design school in the US. Do you want to help me do this mural for this club? Like, sure. There's a singer called Carrie, and she was just coming into her own from a group, girl band called Cookies in Hong Kong. And she said, oh, I'm doing a concert. Can you turn me into a superhero? I said, sure, I'll turn you into a superhero, no problem. And so we made a limited edition comic book. It was given away to, I think, the audience members, and they actually turned some of it into animation, which is really amazing to see on the big screen. From there, I didn't really know how to get my work out there, but I randomly bumped into some high school teachers out in Central, I believe. And one of them, I said, I'm having trouble, I'm not sure what to do now. Should I just go get a job? And then he said, why don't you set up your own exhibition? So it got me started thinking, like, oh, okay, interesting, how do I do that? So with the help of a couple of friends, I found a venue. We researched about 200 different names of galleries, design agencies, art directors, magazines, editors. We found emails and addresses. We printed posters and postcards. We mailed them out, and no one replied. So a friend of mine picked up the phone and called the magazine and said, "Hi, have you received our press release for Jonathan J. Lee's exhibition? I would like to follow up. I represent Jonathan J. Lee. Would you like to follow up with an interview?" And every magazine editor was like, "Oh wow, he seems like the real deal. Let's do an interview with him." And then it was quite successful. So the show itself, I'm more embarrassed to show this work that I did than my picture when I was in school. But the best thing about it was that I got work from it, which is the whole point. So one of the first projects I got from this exhibition was for Cronenberg. Have you guys heard of Cronenberg? Okay, so many years ago, it wasn't launched in Hong Kong yet. And so what they said was, we're gonna find 5 different artists, and all of you are gonna do 3 drawings. And we're gonna take these drawings and put them on premiums. So we're gonna print them on beer glasses, on bar tables, light boxes, whole campaign. And it'll be launched in Lang Kwai Fong, California Tower, old California Tower. And then so I was like, okay, great. But I'm gonna tell you the difference between me and other artists. Remember, I was a young, hungry artist who wanted to prove himself to people around me that I can do this, I can make a living doing this, and I want this. So I gave them 5 to 6 different drawings for each premium specifically, versus every other artist will give them 3. Then the in-house design team will take it, figure out how to put it on the glass, on the table. I designed it specifically for the premiums because for me, I create work in the context of where it's supposed to be. On one of the walls at California Tower, I didn't know where they were going to do the launch, but I knew that they were going to do the launch around here. There was an empty wall with a single logo of the Cronenberg logo. And I thought, okay, maybe they're going to put some artwork up here. I don't know for a fact, but maybe they will. I want to make sure they use my work and not another artist's work. So I went there in the middle of the night with a tape measure and literally measured the dimensions between the doors, the length of the doors, the angle at which the street goes as well, and created a piece specifically for that wall. Why? It's so that when I send it to them, the designers will go, "Oh wow, this artist did the work for us. He saved us a lot of time, so we'll use his work instead." And they did. So if you look on the bottom, they actually did use the work, and that is the actual wall. They used the premium, so you see the tables, the coasters, the posters on the wall. The magazine on the top left corner, actually, they wanted to feature the work. And as a testament to how my work is represented, I made a point of asking them to send me all of the assets to design the magazine for them. I did it for free. And the reason why is because, again, if my work is going to be represented, I want it to be represented in the best way possible. So with this kind of mentality, this mindset, this art and design training, which forced me to become better, the best that I can possibly be, I have since worked with over 100 different clients in galleries, in brands, in fashion, banks, agencies, a lot of private clients as well, restaurants. It sounds very impressive, right? But actually, it wasn't. It was very much a struggle. You subsidize your living with different kinds of things. You make it sound easy in hindsight, but in reality, it was very difficult. So one of the things I did to subsidize my living was storyboards. So a storyboard artist is work for hire. What that means is you get paid by a company, maybe an hourly rate, but they own your work. You help them visualize the content, but they own everything that you do. So I did this project for TBWA at the time, who was responsible for the Infinity project, and they said, "We have a new car that's launching, we have no idea what it looks like. And we want you to help design the storyboards to showcase this new car." So traditionally, storyboards, also in film and TV as well, get paid per board, each board that you draw. So if you look at traditional storyboards, they're very simple, quick pencil drawings, right? Because the money is not a lot. In this case, I wanted to, again, I was young and hungry, I wanted to prove that I don't want them to work with anybody else. I only want them to come back to me. So I went above and beyond and created about 28 different boards to this level in black and white, with some revisions as well. And they were so happy with it that they used it for the global campaign. I've also done work for restaurants. So this is for a restaurant, I think it's gone now, called Boom Shack in Central. And it was an Americana-themed restaurant set in Hong Kong. And so I bring this project up because there's a term that I really hate, which is artist block or writer's block. People using that excuse when they can't do the work. But for us professionals, we just get to work. So yes, I was having a slow week. But for me, if I couldn't come up with good ideas, I replaced it with content, right? If luck is defined as being in the right place at the right time, then I knew that the right place was always at my desk or in my studio doing the work, and hopefully it'll hit. Earlier I showed these examples. This is editorial double-page spreads for a magazine, an in-flight magazine. And they asked me every month to do a different street of Hong Kong. And this is where I started to see symmetry in my work. What's interesting to me, at that time, I hated drawing environments. I hate drawing architecture. And for whatever reason, I took the job because, well, I make a living. And if someone's paying me to draw pictures, well, that's a win. And so for each month they did it, it was a challenge, not just because you're trying to capture, the landmarks that define that street, but also the emotion of that street. So in this case, this is Jaguar, this is Lang Kwai Fong. If you look carefully, I did things with the lighting that make it look as though you're a little bit drunk. This is happy hour. This is Argyle Street, one of the most densely populated streets in the world. So again, trying to capture that feeling of the denseness of the people. Keeping in mind this is editorial, so you have to leave room in the composition for information. So in both these compositions, I've left room at the bottom for the designer to then go and put in the typography. This is Cycling Town. So many of you may know Cycling Town is traditionally a fishing village. So if you look carefully, I put fish in the sky as clouds. So constantly finding ways to have fun in your work. One product I want to talk about is Holy Folk. So Holy Folk is a restaurant in Soho, for any of you who have been. About 4 or 5 years ago, this to me is what I call the star zone. There's a really great article on Making Money Moves referring to the star zone for a client. And what they were was a company that was still growing. They had 5 restaurants, but when they called me, they also didn't really know what they wanted. They said, oh, we like your work, we're not sure what to do yet. The restaurant, by the way, is designed by Sean Dix, who right now is killing it. If you go to Yardbird Ronin, he designs all his restaurants, a lot of the Black Sheep restaurants too. Now he's working internationally. He's quite an interesting guy if you're bumping into him. And so the owners of Black Sheep came to me and said, all right, so here's our idea. Nearby, we source all of our kind of ingredients from the local market. It's called Gage Street Market on Graham Street. And at the time, they said that market was going to be shut down. The developers around were building new developments, and this 115-year-old market was going to disappear. So what we want you to do is preserve it in your artwork. So they said, okay, we want to capture things like the Dai Kai Dong down the street. So for me, one of the challenges was, okay, yes, if in a few years' time the restaurant is here and the market is not, I want people to feel the sense of nostalgia. They wanted me to capture the butchers. And for me, so I went around the whole area, did sketches, I took pictures for reference, and found little narratives in each piece that I did. The idea is that things that we take for granted every day in Hong Kong, we never really look twice. But when you look at the work, you go, oh, okay, I missed that. I missed that period of time when this market was here. We've actually replaced the work recently. For a number of years, maybe 2 years after it opened, I couldn't go to the restaurant because I couldn't stand to look at my own work. So last year, I replaced all the artwork. So if you go there now, you'll see brand new stuff. It was actually quite a lucky project. Like most projects that you get, you give your 100%, no matter what it is, right? Some maybe, get a little bit of attention. Some kind of disappear into the editor for whatever reason, and you have no control over that. But the one thing I do have control over is the creative content, is making sure that I do the best job that I can. And why I say this is lucky is because it became a very successful restaurant. The chef, Zhao Yu, is killing it. He's making a name for himself. I believe Michelin-starred chef Alain Ducasse names him as one of his favorite chefs in the world. And about 1,000 people or so go to the restaurant every week. So a lot of people come through, they see the work, and because they do, a lot of people come to me for more work. So I think HSBC saw my work, that's why they hired me. I get a lot of private commissions. A lot of people asked if they can buy the work. This is for Singapore. This client in Singapore asked me to imagine Chinatown in Singapore in 1965. And of course, this is not really how it looks in 1965, but I always find ways to have fun in the work. So if you look carefully, there's Bruce Lee. Same here, this is for Lee Kun Kee. I worked on with my good friend John-Luc Chivapalmi, who's actually the chair of the Commerce Department here at SCAD, before I came to SCAD. And he brought me on board to capture that spirit of Hong Kong with Dai Kai Dongs, outdoor eating. This Lee Kun Kee brand is soy sauces, it's chili sauces, everything. So to capture that spirit is one of the challenges. I also have clients who give me a lot of freedom. One guy came to me and said, my only requirement is it needs to be a triptych, 1 meter by 1.5 meters. And I said, okay, I don't know where to start. Tell me, what is it you like about Hong Kong? And he says, I love Hong Kong because of Mong Kok, back alleys, the red light district area, karaoke, Tatan tangs, and he told me to just roll with it. So the challenge here was, it's a triptych, yes, but it needs to work together as a whole. But individually, each panel needs to also work as well, at least in narrative. So this was, to me, having that freedom is also fun. I'm gonna share a short video with you guys. Symmetry is one of those areas that is very untouched. Hong Kong is very unapologetic, which I also think is a good thing. It's a city that's raw, right? You don't need to put on a fake facade and pretend to be someone you're not. They're very comfortable being who they are. So a lot of my work is rooted in urban landscapes, and Hong Kong specifically. You still get like the dripping air cons, the things, the pipes that are leaking, the old azes on the street, just hustling and making a living. It's just a really nice local community to be a part of. SCAD is Savannah College of Art and Design. The Hong Kong campus is based in Sham Shui Po. We're a little smaller, we're a little more intimate. I wouldn't have it any other way. In my mind, if I can portray Sham Shui Po the way I feel it deserves, then the rest of the world can also see that. So enter now the teacher. How did I come back full circle, my symmetry if you will, to education? So I did a project for Superior Goods and Talent shoe brand. They had a store in Harbor City, and they asked me to help them do their September campaign, which they bought a Vespa and let me paint all over it. I painted all over the windows and the walls, and then we created these characters based around each of the shoes models. And then they said, hey, why don't you paint on the shoes and we'll sell them in the store? And I'm not one to say no to any opportunity, so I started painting on the shoes. Now the problem with that was I couldn't paint them fast enough, allow for drying time for the people that were purchasing it. So what Superior did was actually hire students from SCAD. So for a month in the store, I was sitting with these students, and they were helping me paint on the shoes, and they were much better than me, like keeping within the lines, being really precise, and we talked the whole time. And it was really great because for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, okay, I see where education has its value. Maybe I have something I can offer. So immediately after this, I applied to teach at SCAD. One of the beautiful things about teaching here, I won't lie, is I love seeing new talent. And especially like 12 years ago when I first came back to Hong Kong, the reason why I think I reached any success at all was not because I was any good, it was because not many people were trained like me. So to suddenly see this kind of new wave that is happening in Asia, in Hong Kong especially, was really exciting. So I need to be part of it from the ground up. Also, I get first-hand peek at talent for any project that we're working on. I get to recommend talent before they get picked up by everyone else. I love kind of preparing them for the future. So this is a portfolio review at Geometry Global. I'll take them with their portfolios, get a professional review from the creative director. I love also being the other side of it, which is goofing around in class. I love like working with students and working with them individually. So coming back to this idea of symmetry, or this question is, how does my work as a teacher relate to symmetry? And what I realized was that I am a product of both my mother and father in terms of their perspectives of education. My mother, who's patient, understanding, listens, and talks you through things, versus my father, who is impatient, because he wants to get things done. He cuts through everything, he delegates and says and tells you what to do. I realized that this is what I'm doing with my students. These asymmetrical perspectives of their approach to education has unintentionally created a different kind of monster, which is me. And I realized that's how I approach my students. How does my work as an artist relate to symmetry? So symmetry again refers to a routine or getting to a balance, something that I said I've never had. I've lived from project to project. Instead, I reflected on symmetry through the lens of my life and practice as an artist. A good friend of mine said this to me recently, but as a professor, you see things from the top down as a whole, a larger perspective, if you will. And this is what I discovered, that at the bigger picture, I start to see a pattern. So in education, I start to have maybe a pattern. So I'll do my undergrad, then after a few years, something happens. I'll do my grad, and then a few years, and here I am now at SCAD. In my career as well. So notice this little dip there. The dip there is for me creatively. I felt that my work was stagnating. I didn't know what I could do to push past this threshold, so I went and pursued a master's degree. And also in major milestones. So that helped to define me. So the first was that spark where I'm like, oh, I need to be an artist. Then the next was the moment of truth where I was like, okay, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to go to university and study art and design. And then the first big break, which was Marvel Comics, of course, and then kind of after a dip a little bit, coming back after my master's, the turning point, which is Holy Folk. Holy Folk giving me and allowing me the narrative that I want to talk about. And though I've kind of come back full circle to education, that Symmetry, my life is not over yet. With all the unpredictability of life, could this help me to see where I'm going? So here I'm working like an archaeologist, right? Archaeology is defined as looking at the past to determine where you are right now and potentially see where you might go. I don't really have an answer yet, but what I'm recognizing that every 4 to 5 years of my life, there is some kind of turning point in my career as a result of something that I've done, something I need to do, or maybe making a change. It made me think of a designer called Sagmeister. He's got a studio in New York City. He's really interesting because he thought that, okay, your life is like this. You go to school, you work for 40 plus years, and then you retire, and then you die. So to make it more interesting for him creatively, he decided to intersperse each of his retirement years into the 40 plus years of his work. So every 7 years, he takes a sabbatical for a whole year. He goes and stays somewhere, maybe Indonesia, and then meditates, reads, learns, and he realizes that that first year they come back to get back to work, that first year, all the work they do in that first year defines the next 6 years before the next sabbatical. So he's figured out his pattern, his symmetry to create that balance. So like most projects, working to a brief or with a creative director or client, the end goal is to solve a problem creatively. Giving a hold of something and not submitting or compromising has always been my approach. For example, this talk. What I'd like to leave you with, if I'm going to leave you with anything at all, like some kind of conclusive discovery and my take on this theme, is that even though life seems like it's incredibly unpredictable, like for example, I never wanted to be in education, yet here I am. Though it may feel like you live a life of unpredictability, take a look back and balance will start to unfold to find your own symmetry. Thank you very much.
To Q&A. If anyone wants to start it off.
Thank you so much. It was an amazing talk.
Thank you.
I'm from a family of teachers as well, and I never thought I would be teaching, and I'm teaching now. And what I noticed is that when I start teaching, I actually learn so much. And my question to you, what you learned since you started teaching?
Oh, wow. Okay, great question. So I've learned more than I ever did in any program that I've been to. Being on this side of the table, suddenly you realize a lot of things that if in the past I thought, my previous professors or instructors struggled a little bit, I was aware of that. And so for me too, I'm being very aware of those small details and trying to become better than them, if you will. What I've learned is how to provide content in the best way possible for a large number of students and also giving them individual direction. So I work better giving individual direction. And I realized that even though there's 2 students who are maybe in the same level, you're giving them different feedback for a reason, because you're trying to push them in the direction they need to go. And some need very specific direction, some need freedom. And a lot of it, I won't lie, a lot of it is kind of figuring things out too, right? If for whatever reason, so I talk about my projects and I give my whole to everything. I apply that same idea to my students. If something's not working out, if I can't get the student to this level, what's going wrong? And try and look back, I asked colleagues, like, what is your teaching practices? Like, maybe how do I work with the student? And so for me, it's like, okay, for each one, how do I bring them to that level that they need to go to? And if I can do that, then I've done my job.
Anyone else? I think there was one in the front.
Thank you so much for your talk. When you're talking about symmetry, I think it's pretty hard to escape the word conflict, right? As you mentioned. So I'm wondering, during your experience working with or working for your clients, when you have your own ideas to present versus your client's idea and in moments of conflicts, how do you deal with that?
Great question. So again, a lot of what I do, I'm from communication arts, right? I'm not the fine artist necessarily, but I still am an artist. And believe it or not, clients don't really know what they want. They say they do, but what you need to do is put a little bit of yourself in there. And again, the challenge is fulfilling their brief while fulfilling your artistic needs and integrity. What I would do is sometimes if a client, after a revision process, asks for something that may seem a little bit ridiculous, rather than fight back, I'll show them why their idea doesn't work. And again, this comes to education too. It's like, it's not them telling what to do. Part of your job is to educate the client, right? In a respectful way, of course. And this is kind of why I'm teaching as well, because I realized, I mean, I still get that email where a Mexican restaurant's opening in Hong Kong and you can compete to win $2,000 in credit and get your work up there. And for me, I was like, oh man, it's something, I can't believe this still happens, you know what I mean? And it's not the client's fault necessarily, it's sometimes maybe it's like it's our job to educate them that actually this is why this is not right. So in those moments what I do, like I said, you'll have conflict, okay, well, is it a paycheck? Hopefully it's never just a paycheck. You will deliver to the best of your ability. And in some cases, the worst case scenario, I just ask them to remove my name from the work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going.
Go on. Okay. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.